Hi, and welcome, because this is, I'm going to start calling my Wednesday videos, which I think I've kind of been on a weekly schedule. These are going to start be calling Troy Talks, okay? And Troy Talks are going to be, where I just basically talk about, whether it be movies or games, sort of like big picture stuff, like not, like little things, but not to sound contradictory. Today, I am I'm talking about Man of Steel. All right, I am a big Superman fan. I saw Man of Steel 3 times the first week. I've seen it in 3D. I've seen it in 2D, and I can tell you this much: if you haven't guessed already, I really like the movie. Okay, now, spoilers from here on out. All right, if you are watching this just to get my thoughts on Man of Steel and you have not seen it yet and you care about spoilers, I suggest you turn a movie off and maybe come visit me after you've seen the movie so far, because I've heard a lot of griping on the internet about this movie, and a lot of people said, this movie wasn't good as a Superman movie. And I said, why? Why wouldn't you appreciate Man of Steel as a Superman movie? And there are several good reasons. They say, well, Superman doesn't save anybody in this film. If you've seen it, and you've seen what happens to Metropolis at the end, there are a ton of people dying. And people are asking, well, why didn't he take the fight to another location? Why didn't he take the fight to somewhere that it wasn't going to happen? And you know what? Honestly, truly, and they say, why does Superman choose to kill? Okay, there's a lot of that going around. Why does he kill? Why doesn't he save anyone else? And where is the cheer? Where is the smiling? And there's two things that you have to remember. Is that first off, this movie was executive produced by Christopher Nolan, who, as you are aware, maybe he did all of the recent Batman movies, and he did Inception and Memento, and The Prestige. He's a really great filmmaker. I like pretty much everything that he's done. But a lot of people have said that he has no place here in Superman, which is supposed to be cheerful and wonderful, and to that I say no. And here's why. Let me get into it. First off, why can't Superman kill? Let's be honest. You are talking from a position of an established hero with an established principle. In this movie, we have a new Superman who does not know that this is his deal. He knows that he has the ability to save people, but he was even raised on the idea that maybe he should let people die to save his secret. And only later in the movie, when he starts being himself and being out there in the open, do we see that, he is trying to save people with his powers. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has the power to save everyone. I want you to let that sink in for a second. This Superman cannot save everyone. Let's be honest here. Superman has 2 jobs. The first job is to take care of the giant machine at the Indian Ocean, okay? Now you might argue, why didn't he go to Metropolis? Why didn't he stop that one first so that, we could, get this whole thing done? And I think that the reason is because they had 2 jobs to do, and no one quite understood what was actually going on. And here you had the Kryptonians manning that ship in Metropolis. It could not have been anticipated that Metropolis would start to be crushed to bits when they came up with the plan. And indeed, no one could communicate with Superman that that was indeed what was going on. It was the logical call to make, that the humans on their own have the power to put that ship out of commission. So Superman, the only person with the power to put the other ship out of commission, should take care of that one first, and maybe they'll get done at the same time. Maybe this is mission accomplished. Now, once Superman is in Metropolis, why isn't he saving everyone? Actually, he is saving everyone. He is by destroying that ship. He smashes through Zod's ship on arrival and then proceeds to allow the Phantom Drive to hit the ship. Let's put it this way, okay? As soon as Superman destroys that ship in the Indian Ocean, the destruction of Metropolis stops. And as soon as Superman arrives on scene, literally seconds after he arrives on scene in Metropolis, the humans succeed in their goal of banishing the ship out into the far reaches. Now, this precludes one last deal. Why didn't Superman take the fight with Zod somewhere else? This is not an episode of Dragon Ball Z. Okay? Superman's not just going to be like, hey Zod, hey, you mind taking this somewhere where people might not die so much? Did you hear Zod? He said, I'm gonna kill everyone. Why would he agree to that? Zod would want to fight in a place with a maximum collateral damage. Now here's the other trick. Superman has not had it in principle that he's not gonna kill. Okay? He already banished people to the Phantom Zone as part of a plan. And now that Zod is on Earth without any means of removing him, short of killing him or what? Throwing him into space? Can't Zod just fly back? He's got all the same powers. This was lose-lose. You either lose the Earth or you kill Zod. And Superman doesn't have anything against killing quite yet. He didn't want to kill Zod, but he didn't have a choice. Okay? He can either save the criminal or let the innocent people die. And you might say, well, in the comics, innocent people die all the time and Superman doesn't kill the supervillains. No. Stop. Superman did what he had to do in that moment in the context of everything. Letting Zod go couldn't happen. There is no way to hold a Kryptonian in this established universe. Now consider the weight of what happens post-Zod. By killing Zod and killing the ship and getting rid of the Kryptonians, Superman has committed Kryptonian genocide. Okay? This has occurred. A result of Superman's actions have caused him to have no other people like him in the universe. This is the reason that he will never kill again. And if they make a Man of Steel 2, and when they make a Man of Steel 2, they will make sure that Superman goes through this mourning period, this, I can't believe I killed everyone on my planet by doing what I did. And really let that sink in. This is a Superman origin story. He does not have that vow to never kill. And this is a Superman who does not have the completely limitless power that we have seen in comic books. This is a Superman for the big screen. Just like Lois Lane is not some super hot, know-all, holy crap, she's the greatest reporter ever, and she always knows what's going on. We don't even have Clark Kent in this until the very end of the movie because he just didn't fit. This is an origin story, and Clark Kent comes in as an establishment. I think that the way they handled Lois Lane in this movie was brilliant. I feel that her part was a little underwritten. I feel that they kind of swept her under the rug. But, to the same token, they did what they needed to do. Now, there were some plot holes in this movie. Yes, there's always plot holes. Come on, don't you get that? Haven't you ever gone to a movie and not been like, I bet if this would have happened, then ha ha ha. Like, okay, Harry Potter. Why didn't Voldemort just stab the little boy in book 4? Why didn't he just take a knife and say, well, magic didn't work the first time. Maybe I should just take a knife or a gun and shoot him in the head. No, that doesn't happen. There's a certain suspension of disbelief that you need walking into a movie. And there's a certain understanding that if you walk into a movie that's Superman, where the stuff's going to explode, you're walking into an action movie. This isn't going to be a cerebral plot, okay? This is not The Prestige, and this is not Inception. And indeed, Batman didn't have any semblance of a cerebral plot. It was very straightforward. Here's Batman, here's a villain. Oh no, Batman's gloom and doom all the time, but he still manages to pull through and beat the bad guys. Superman is gloom and doom in this movie because he has a weight on his shoulders. And it is a weight that is lifted once the movie is concluded and humanity is receptive to him. But he was raised thinking that humanity would shun him and curse him. And his father was far more vocal about those feelings than his mother was, but she did say, I've always thought Clark had a gift. I always thought the world would totally accept him. And you know what? That's something that she didn't say enough to him. And it's why he hides in shadow. It's why he's all doom and gloom all the time. And if you're thinking that Superman is a little too serious and needs to be cheerier, think about the life that he's lived in seclusion, in constant fear that his actions would change the world in a negative way because of his father. His father, Pa Kent, is the one that you should really be mad about in this movie. Pa Kent has, in the past, in other things, say Smallville, been very keen to not let anyone know about Clark. Has been very afraid not let anyone know about Superman's secret. But at the same time, he wasn't also, like, maybe you should have let those people on the bus die, I just think that this is a more confused Pa Kent, a more distrusting Pa Kent. And I feel that the way that he died was not silly at all. I think that it was silly that he went back for the dog, okay? But if you think about the context of the situation, Pa Kent would not have risked his son's life, were his son human, to go and get the dog. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to say, hey son, why don't you go run in that tornado? He was doing things from the perspective of, this is what people need to see for this to be believable. And that's what happened. And when he could have been saved, he was like, no, just let this go. Because what would people have said if suddenly he was there and he uses his super speed and suddenly Pa Kent vanishes and there's a lot of wind behind them, and what happened to Clark? Clark disappeared in an instant. There's no way. He does not have infinite speed like he does in the comics. He's not like the Kryptonian Flash Gordon here. He's a normal, sort of slightly limited superhero. Yes, Superman can always turn it up to 11. He has no true limits. And I think we're going to see that as the movies progress and maybe get a beefier, crazier even Superman movie. I think that you need to take this for what it is. Superman killed because he did not have a choice, because he had not established that he would never kill. And this movie sets up why he would do that. Pa Kent died in the tornado because that's what made the most sense for his character. And if you don't believe that after watching that movie, you got problems, son. The movie's fight scenes were astounding. And the reason that Superman was so reckless in Metropolis is because he had another Superman punching him through buildings. Okay? Yes, Superman did some pretty goofy things with Zod out there. But I think the assumption needs to be made that Superman didn't really have the ability to hold back. Because here was a guy that was willing to kill him and kill everyone else on the planet. And Superman had to make sacrifices. And so many had already been sacrificed as part of this plan anyway. And I don't think that Superman consciously made the decision, you know what, if a few more people have to die, so be it. But I think that you have to understand Superman did what needed to be done at that point in time. Alright? And I think this is why I like Man of Steel. Krypton was awesome. I think the movie was well paced. I didn't think that the middle section was boring because they kept splicing in the flashbacks and everything, and the way the story was pieced together was interesting to me. Just assemble. I like that, and that's just my opinion. But I think from a Superman standpoint, this is a movie Superman for a new generation. If you like Christopher Reeve and the old super corny Supermans with all the jolly and cheer, that's great. And if you like Iron Man's sort of witty banter and oh ho ho, I'm Iron Man and look, I get some laughs in here, that's great, that's fine. This Superman story was not about cheer and it was not about laughs. And after having seen the end of that movie, I think you can agree. Superman's life has been surrounded by the death of his father and the death of millions at the hand of a catastrophe that he now feels responsible for, that he brought them to this planet when he set off the distress beacon of that ship. This is not a happy tale, all right? I think you have to remember that when you're watching this movie, all right? But my thoughts on Man of Steel was that it was absolutely awesome. Was it the best movie I've ever seen? No. But as a Superman fan, as a person who's read Red Sun and All-Star Superman and watched Superman the Animated Series and watching Justice League and seen the old Superman movies and Superman Return, I think, first off, this is my favorite Superman movie out of the several that there's been. And I think that it is true to a reimagining of the character. In the same way that if you read Red Sun, you might say, oh man, Superman would never reprogram people's brains. That's stupid. But no, we were very accepting of Red Sun and that this was a different universe and whatnot. I don't see why that can't happen for this movie. Why can't we, as a movie collective, make some concessions? If there's any one thing that you have the full right to gripe about, it is all of the Christian imagery in this movie was so hackneyed. It was just so, there it is! There's Jesus. Like, when Jor-El says, you can save them, Clark. You can save them all. And then he drifts out of the spaceship like this, like, I am Jesus. Like, he didn't need to do that. He could have just been, okay, there's Lois. I'm going to go save her. No, he was like, I am the savior of Earth. And then he went from there. And you know what? That's a little weird. Or when he was up against the fence and he looked like this. Oh, man, I'm the Jesus man. But also remember that his last name is El, which is, I believe, Hebrew for God. Okay? We're talking about the son of El, the son of God. He goes into a church. Superman has always been very rich in Christian allegory. Now, you can't deny that. It could have been a little bit more subtle. Yes. But is Zack Snyder ever subtle? No. And that's important to realize when you're walking into this movie. You're getting an action movie with a very visual director. Everything's going to be in your face. Bam, explode, pow. Now, I thought the action scenes were awesome. I can't remember the last time I had so much fun watching a movie's action scenes. Maybe, I don't know, A-Team? When they're like flying the tank. Ridiculous. That movie was awesome. But I digress. I liked Man of Steel, and I think that you need to really open your mind to like Man of Steel, because I could approach it from the perspective of a closed-off Superman fan and say, not so much. But, there's the kicker. This isn't a graphic novel. This isn't All-Star Superman. This is not Red Sun. This is not Superman Birthright. This is not the animated series. This is PG-13 Zack Snyder, Chris Nolan, David Goyer Superman. And there's certain things that you have to accept. Now, if it makes you feel any better, Nolan said in an interview he didn't want to kill Zod. But then Goyer and Snyder said, no, we got to kill this dude. And they wrote it in a way that it made sense to Nolan. So if it makes you feel any better, Nolan agrees with you. But I think it worked. I think it worked, and I walked out of that movie being like, snap! And I got that, and then the reaction when he snapped Zod's neck, crack! I was just like, oh! That just happened? Superman killed? And it took me a few minutes to realize, I'm like, well, why wouldn't Superman kill? You know? In that situation. Try to accept Man of Steel from that perspective, and I guarantee you'll like the movie more. Stop being so down on it for what it did wrong and start praising it for what it did right. This was a Superman movie that felt super. He's got his fist up and he flies through the gravity thing and it explodes, and then he flies through Zod's ship, and then he punches that dude into the trains and carries Zod like he's so mad. Zod's standing over his mom. He's so mad he crashes him through silos and into a 7-Eleven product placement. Now that stuff is something that we couldn't do back when Reeve was doing these, and it was awesome to see it. You cannot deny that everything exploded in that movie, just everything, and it was so cool. So Man of Steel, I liked it. That's why I liked it. And as a Superman fan, he's my favorite superhero. I love that he's for truth, justice, and the American way. And they sort of bring that out at the end. You know, I'm about as American as you can get. I grew up in Kansas, right? So trust that in Man of Steel 2, we'll probably have a more traditional Superman that might help you appreciate Man of Steel 1 a little bit more. You might have to wait a little bit, but this movie was worth it. And if you haven't seen it yet, and I've spoiled it all for you, you know, I'm sorry. I did warn you. But if you don't mind spoilers, I mean, really, this movie was just, what? It's so crazy. So yeah. Now, there will be a follow-up to this. For those of you who are more of the video game persuasion, there is going to be a follow-up, Troy Talks, to this particular discussion. I have currently been designing a Superman game. Now, granted, it is all purely conceptual, okay, but there has never once been a Superman video game that was any good. And I know that we all remember Superman 64, and we laugh, okay? But I think that a Superman game could be done right, and I've been working on it for a few days now. Tooling the systems in my mind, thinking about the way the HUD would look, thinking about the way the game would play. And I would really love for you guys to tune in to the part 2 of Troy Talks, which I'm hoping to do in the next few days, before next Wednesday when I can switch the topic. So stay tuned, and if you're a Superman fan and you haven't seen Man of Steel, go see that movie. It's going to blow your mind. Again, thanks for watching. Have a good one.